Welcome to BW Healthcare World. Today we have the MD and CEO of Biocon Ltd, Mr. Siddharth Mittal, with us, who will be talking to us about the performance of Q4 of Biocon and FY23, which has panned out fairly well for the group. Welcome once again, Mr. Mittal. Thank you for giving us your time.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Mr. Mittal, let's start off with Q4 results. What has been the picks for you? I've seen it's been tremendous numbers. Congratulations on that, by the way. What have been the picks for you this quarter, and are there any areas of concern that you've sensed which also need improvement?
So, as you said, that we have had a very good quarter. Our revenues closed at 3,929 crore, up 59% compared to last year, in which the biggest contributor was Biocon Biologics, which contributed 2,100 crores, up again 114% compared to last year. And this contribution came as we had completed the acquisition of biosimilar business from Viatris in the previous quarter. So we saw a full year impact of those numbers in fourth quarter, which was the main reason for the growth. We also saw a licensing income for one of our drug to a company, to one of our partners, which contributed to almost 165 crores of licensing income, which is embedded in these numbers. Apart from biosimilars, Syngene again had an excellent quarter. They are close to the 1,000 crore revenue mark. They grew 31% this year compared to last year, and this was again on account of the manufacturing business or the contract that they done with Zoetis, apart from the growth in their existing base business on discovery and development. Right. So overall, a very good quarter. I think as we move forward, we expect that all the three businesses will continue to grow, strongly in the coming quarters and years.
Right. The margins this year, for FY23 fell by 1%. Do you see them increasing in this upcoming financial year? What would be that, goal that you set for yourself?
See, the core Ebitda margins actually grew from 33% to 35% this quarter, and from 32 to 34% on a full year basis. So the margins have been growing at a core Ebitda margin. Of course, our investment in R&D is also going up, and we hope that on a full year basis we continue to maintain these levels of margin, despite all the pricing pressures that we see in the US and other key markets that we have. And we are hoping that new launches and the impact of reducing cost on our existing products will lead us to at least margins being at these levels. We of course have some significant new launches coming up, and hoping that as you launch these drugs, the margins will be better than what you would otherwise get on a normal or stabilized products.
Right. So we are seeing, we'll be seeing a year-on-year, possibly an increase in the margins as well in the upcoming quarter. Let's, come to the generics API business, and this year also, the growth has been slight, but it is there. And you mentioned about the pricing pressures in the US. How do you think that has performed? Because there's a nominal increase there, and how you're planning to grow it in future, because now your business is more biosimilar majority. It's led by that, and will we see this going at backwards, or will this come in forefront also, generic business going forward?
So our entry into biopharmaceutical happened through our API business 25 years back, and has been a core part of our overall business. Though our focus, of course, was on biosimilars for many years, but we started focusing again on generics business or the API business a couple of years back. And one of the reasons why we spun off biosimilar into a separate subsidiary was to bring back focus on the generics business. And so we have started investing again in creating capacities, in creating pipeline, in strengthening our quality systems for generics business. We are investing almost $500 million over a period of 5 years in creating capacities and R&D pipeline for generics business. Our focus would, of course, continue to be in fermentation, which has been our strongest area. And since the late 90s, we've been manufacturing drugs using fermentation. Our focus has been there on the synthetic molecules, but as we move forward, we see a huge potential in peptides. Today, this is a growing segment. We have seen a huge shift in focus, where even companies like Novo Nordisk or Eli Lilly has been moving their focus from insulins to GLP-1s. And what used to be $20-30 billion insulin market is now actually projected to be over $100 billion GLP-1 market. So we see that as a significant growth driver for us for the next 5 to 10 years. And we are investing heavily there in terms of both pipeline and capacities and capability building.
So peptides will be a kind of growth area that the Biocon is looking at, very, very cautiously and very, with very much effort. When we, talk about the product portfolios going forward, currently it's throughout segments. You talked about, peptides, synthetic APIs. How are you planning to grow your product portfolios going forward?
See, we've expanded our R&D infrastructure itself, and we have doubled our investments in terms of number of people who are working on our products. So what we used to have very few products in the past, but we have really doubled or more than doubled the investment in R&D. And now we are looking at filing anywhere between 5 to 7 new APIs and between 8 to 10 new ANDAs in the US. And these would, of course, be focused on mainly fermentation and peptides. But we are also looking at a fourth very important sector, which is the potent oncology API sector, because we know cancer as a disease or oncology as a therapeutic area has been the biggest in the whole healthcare area. Is also where the affordability is a big concern, where the accessibility is a big concern. And we think if we have to make a difference to patients and healthcare systems, we have to be in that space, because that's where we can bring much cheaper, high quality drugs to patients worldwide. Hence, we are working on a wide portfolio of oncology APIs and formulations, and which we plan to bring to various parts of the world over the next 5 to 7 years.
Right. You spoke about the pricing pressures in US, and it's been there for quite a while now. What is the assessment that, how long are we going to see these pricing pressures? And going forward, what will be the plan to diversify, from US market, moving away from US market? Obviously that is the plan that your company is, pondering upon at this moment. How are you seeing that? And first, tell me, what is your assessment of the pricing pressures and their relief?
See, pricing pressure in US has been there always, will always be there. So it's not going to go away. It was just during a certain number of years, it went deeper. So instead of what used to be, let's say, a 5 to 7% average reduction, it became more like a double-digit reduction. But we do not see the pricing pressure ever go away, because the price of drugs, generic drugs or biosimilar drugs, never go up. It always goes down. Especially in the US, when the customers do a contract, whether it's for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 1 year, and when they invite bids again after the expiration of contract, there's automatic tendency on the incumbent to reduce prices to retain that business, and hence you see that annual price reduction. Right now, we are seeing the price reduction not go back to its original levels of 5 to 7. It's somewhere between 7 to 10%. But again, it's drug specific. In some drugs, we continue to see much deeper price erosion. In some drugs, there is rationalization that's happened and lower price reduction. But I don't see any significant dynamics changing. Now, the impact of IRA has been there, and it's impacted the innovators more. I do not necessarily again see a huge impact on the generics. But again, things could be not necessarily predictable. If there are changes in the marketplace, which means today, if you look at generics drug, it is the entire buying is controlled by 3 large wholesalers, and the whole chain is quite I would say well entrenched into each other, starting with the insurance to the payers, the PBMs to wholesalers to retailers. Now, if this is what's kind of given them this the benefit of negotiating, but if we see any change in this at a structural level, then we might see dynamics change. Now, whether it helps us or it impacts us is something which is difficult to predict.
Speculative at
But
this
we
point.
have seen some, we have heard some noise around or the pressure around decoupling these, the fully integrated kind of value chain. Now, I don't see a significant change on the selling side, because while we have seen few bankruptcies in the US, we have seen some companies being impacted on the quality compliance side. Unless the number of sellers go down, we again do not see a significant change in the pricing dynamics. Okay, at the end of it, it's all about number of buyers and number of sellers. So this dynamics has to change for any significant positive or negative change to happen.
Your company is already diversifying into other markets. Tell us about that and your future partnerships when you think about moving away from US, or not away from US, but focusing your attention elsewhere as well.
So, and I'll start maybe with biosimilars. We've been supplying insulin to over 70 countries since many years. We've been also filing for approvals for our drugs in various parts of the world. So, not necessarily going by the size of the market, but we feel that every market is important, every patient is important, and if you have to make drugs affordable and accessible, we have to do it across the globe, and that would continue to be our endeavor to go in every market, whether it's direct, or whether it's through a partner, or it's in a direct government tender participation. We'll continue to focus there. Of course, the revenue growth, the volumes will come from larger markets, so beyond US and Europe. Traditionally, Latin America, which comprises of both Mexico and Brazil, have been strong markets for us. Middle East has been quite strong, and we also definitely see a huge opportunity from China. Of course, it takes longer time to get your foothold in China, but China is the second largest pharmaceutical market in the world today, and we do see shift where the Chinese companies that are looking at sourcing drugs from Indian companies, especially the more specialty complex drugs of high quality, because the Chinese regulators are also shifting their focus to getting drugs for local patients more in line with the international drug standards, which traditionally they've looked at more the Chinese standards. And when they are upgrading their own expectations to align with ICH standards, so that opens up opportunities for companies like us.
Right. One of the main challenges that the whole healthcare sector is currently facing is the cyber security threat. And we've seen the pharmaceutical companies at the bad end of it, and also the healthcare providers. How do you view this challenge, and how do you think it should be tackled?
See, cybersecurity and information security has been a high risk in the last few years. Of course, there's been a lot of threats, attacks, day zero attacks that's been there on the companies, and the companies have been vulnerable, have been impacted. We've seen few of the large Indian generic companies also being impacted. We've seen global companies being impacted, and of course, you have to with so much data now available in electronic form, everybody has to be super vigilant, and you put all the necessary protection around the infrastructure to ensure there is least impact, and even if there is an impact, the recovery is at the minimum amount of time, and there is no loss of data. So we have, of course, put a lot of measures in place to address these threats, and we are continuously focusing on improving our overall security and preparedness to address if there is an attack in the future.
Right. You know, when you see the Indian pharmaceutical market at this point in time, what are the challenges that you see for the market when it comes to growth, or when it when it comes to moving up the value chain?
I think pretty much I see a lot of saturation in the Indian pharmaceutical market, though there is a huge opportunity, but especially for exports. The saturation has been there because of high competition. I mean, today everybody is facing same level of challenges in the US, and US, of course, has been the significant contributor for all Indian generics revenues. And as the pricing pressure continues, as the pipeline dries up, the companies are looking at what else can they do to move away from the OSDs. And now we've recently seen even injectables are going the OSD's way. So in terms of pricing, so everybody is looking at, of course, some niche, whether it's inhalers or derma or some kind of complex injectables. And of course, the companies have tried to get their arms around biosimilars. Not every, but we have seen very limited success so far outside of what we have been able to do in in this area. We've also seen companies look at novel drugs, whether it's novel biologics drug, like Sun has a novel biologics, which is doing quite well. The other companies we have know are working in novel chemical drugs. So everybody is trying, and whatever is wherever their niche lies, wherever their capabilities lie, they are focusing on those areas. And I'm hopeful that in the years to come, there will be some rationalizations, and the industry will be back on the growth path, what it used to be until few years back.
Right. Right. When we see the FY 24 coming in, what are your plans for growth? And when you see the IPM, what do you predict?
In Indian pharmaceutical market,
Yeah, Indian pharmaceutical.
I expect that to continue to grow. We have seen good growth even in last year. In fact, a lot of the companies which have traditionally focused on Indian markets have done actually better than companies which have focused on the US markets. This is because the Indian markets have done well with a greater access and of drugs to patients in India, with increasing standard of living or earning per capita income. The spending on healthcare has definitely gone up, and also the government has introduced the whole awareness campaigns, the Ayushman Bharat, with making drugs accessible to wider population, has definitely opened up the market, and I expect that this IPM will continue to grow in the coming years. And we have also seen many more new launches in Indian market, which had dried down for a period of time.
If you see the upcoming quarter, which will be the Q1 for FY 24, what are your growth projections for this quarter?
Well, I would not like to comment specifically on the quarter, because we look at more the big picture, the fiscal year. And as I mentioned, that in generics business, we expect mid-teens kind of growth, in research services, high teen to low 20s. And in biosimilar, we are starting with a very solid base of $1 billion. And there are a couple of important launches coming up, adalimumab in July, and we would look at expanding the market share as well as geographical presence for our existing commercialized molecules, in addition to we are also hoping that we are able to get the approval for biosimilar aspart and biosimilar bevacizumab by end of this fiscal, and we are able to launch those two drugs. Of course, the large part of impact of launch would come only 12 months post the launch. So we'll see a very little impact maybe this year, but at least it will help us grow in FY25.
Right. Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mittal, for joining us here on BW Healthcare World. Thank you again for your time. Wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you. My pleasure.